and welcome to this meeting of the Comhairle, which is being conducted from the Council Chamber and also remotely through Microsoft Teams. And before we begin, I will ask Councillor Kenny MacLeod Harris to lead us in prayer.
Our Lord and loving Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can come into your holy presence at this, the start of another day, and at the start of this meeting of the full Comhairle. We thank you that through the finished work of Christ, you have opened up that way to us, that we can come into your holy presence to bring our prayers and petitions before you. And we come seeking your wisdom and your guidance and leading at this time. You have entrusted us with these responsibilities and these opportunities for our communities to make decisions and to take forward and make full use of the resources and all that you have provided for us. Help us as we consider the issues before us today to do so in a way that is right, looking not to ourselves but to what is in the best interests of our community, that we would share not with one another things that are right, and in our discussions remember that we are working together, all for the one purpose, to take forward and to build in our community here in the Western Isles. Bless us and be with us. Be with all who work in the Comhairle, all the employees, all the staff, the chief executive, and everyone who works here. Be with each and every one of us as members. Be with our convener as he leads the meeting here, and all elected representatives, that we would be led by you in everything we do. Keep us focused on you, for we know, Lord, that you are in control of all things, and when we come to a God who hears and answers our prayers. Be with us now and keep us. Go before us in everything, and be with all in our community today who are in need. So many, Lord, struggling in many ways. But we thank you that we can come to the throne of grace. We can bring them before you, seeking your blessing on them and your protection of each and every one. Those who are in our hospitals, in our care homes, all those working to look after people in their own homes. And Lord, that each and every one would be upheld by you. Be with those who are mourning and feeling the pain of emptiness through the loss of loved ones, that they would know that you are the great comforter, that they would come to you to know your everlasting arms around them, comforting and upholding them. Bless us now and be with us, and keep us in everything looking to you, that our eyes would be fixed on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, and the one alone to whom we can turn. Keep us looking to you always, and go before us now, for we ask it in your loving and precious name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacLeod. The meeting is now being recorded and will be available on the Comhairle's website following the meeting. I will now ask Derek Mackay, Governance and Elections Manager, to read the Sederant. Derek.
On
the show.
Leader.
Yeah.
Duncan McInnes, MBE. Sure. Bara agus Watersay. Kenneth John McLean.
I'm sure.
Ian A. McNeil.
I'm sure.
Usa Jess Eriske agus Benavilia. Ian M. MacLeod.
I'm sure.
Susan Thompson.
Good morning.
Usta Tua Mustafa Hussein.
I'm sure.
Ushan Robertson.
On the hill.
Naherach Paul Finnegan.
No.
Kenneth M. MacLeod.
On the hill.
Skiernan Loch, Robert Mackenzie.
Here.
Angus Morrison.
On the hill.
We have Skiru Gauss Carlaway. I have apologies from Ranulph Fraser and Norman MacDonald. In Turf Shear Agus Nish, I have apologies from Councillor John Norman MacLeod. Donald McSween.
I'm a ho.
Lochatua, Donald Crichton.
I'm sure.
John A. McKeever. I have apologies from Colin McLean. Shorna Lochatua, Ian M. Macaulay. Malcolm K. MacDonald. Gordon Murray.
I'm sure.
John Jace, Ray Mackenzie,
I'm sure.
Angus McCormack,
I'm sure.
Dr. Francis Murray,
Michelle.
George Murray, and Scaden Rue. I have apologies from Councillor Snorri MacDonald and Finlay Stewart. Three members of the quorum present.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek. I'm ruling item 6F as urgent in order for the matter to be considered prior to the next CDSO meetings. Tributes now, and first of all, welcome Mr. Martin Joyce. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to welcome Mr. Joyce to his first meeting of the Comhairle since his appointment as Chief Executive. Welcome, Martin. Mr. Malcolm Burr, OBE, on behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to extend sincere congratulations to Mr. Malcolm Burr, former Chief Executive of Comhairle nan Eilean Siar, on being awarded an OBE for public service in the King's Birthday Honours List. Malcolm has been recognised for his outstanding leadership as Chief Executive and for his role as convener of the Electoral Management Board for Scotland. This honour is a fitting recognition of his significant and lasting contribution to public service in the Western Isles and across Scotland. On behalf of the communities of the Western Isles, I express my gratitude to Mr. Burr for his many years of dedicated service and warmly congratulate him on his well-deserved honour. Isabella Bella Cameron, BEM. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to warmly congratulate Isabella Bella Cameron, Head of Kitchen at Grogery Lodge, on being awarded the British Empire Medal for services to hospitality and the rural economy in South Uist. Over more than 50 years, Bella has welcomed visitors from across the world, making a remarkable contribution to tourism in the area. On behalf of the communities of the Western Isles, I congratulate Bella on this well-earned recognition of her dedication and service to the hospitality sector. Emma McSween, on behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate Mrs. Emma McSween on her appointment as Chief Officer of the Western Isles Integration Joint Board. Mrs. McSween brings extensive experience and in-depth knowledge of local health and social care services, having served as Interim Chief Executive since November 2025. We wish her every success in her new role. Norman A. MacDonald Docas. On behalf of the Comhairle, I wish to pay tribute to Norman A. MacDonald Docas, my predecessor in this role, who sadly passed away on Monday, the 6th of April, 2026. Norman gave outstanding service to the Comhairle and the wider community over many years, serving as convener for a decade and as an elected member for 25 years. Early in his career, he worked as a community education officer and youth worker, positively influencing countless young people across Lewis. Norman was awarded an OBE in the King's New Year Honours List in 2024 in recognition of his outstanding contribution to his community, local government and the Western Isles. His commitment extended far beyond public office, including 30 years of dedicated service as a retained firefighter, 15 of which were as watch commander. He played a pivotal role in numerous community initiatives and organisations, including the development of the EU Community Centre, and served in leadership roles across a wide range of bodies at local and national level. Norman's dedication, leadership and community spirit leave a lasting legacy. On behalf of the Comhairle, I extend sincere condolences to his wife Pat, his children Sarah, Peter and Kenny, his grandchildren and all his family and friends at this sad time. Reverend Dr. Roderick MacLeod, MBE, on behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to pay tribute to former member, the Reverend Dr. Roderick MacLeod, MBE, who passed away on Saturday, the 9th of May, 2026. Reverend Dr. MacLeod served as a member for the Papal Ward between 1974 and 1982, and was a devoted minister serving in Burnery and later in Argyll over many decades. Awarded an MBE in 2017 for services to Gaelic and the community. Reverend Dr. MacLeod was a tireless advocate for the Gaelic language and a respected community figure. His contribution leaves an enduring legacy through both his ministry and his commitment to Gaelic culture. On behalf of the Comhairle, I extend sincere condolences to his family and friends. Councillor Finlay Stewart, on behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to pay tribute to Councillor Finlay Stewart on the sudden passing of his sister-in-law, Christine Watts. Our thoughts are with Mr. Stewart, his wife and the wider family, and I extend our sincere condolences at this very sad time. Telecare Award Father Service. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate all those involved in the Father Service on receiving the Platinum Digital Telecare Supplement Implementation Award. This recognition reflects the successful completion of the transition from analogue to digital systems. Comhairle nan Eilean Siar was the first telecare provider in Scotland to adopt the shared alarm receiving centre solution, a significant achievement made possible through the dedication of Comhairle officers and strong partnership working with the digital office. This award highlights the commitment to innovation and improved service delivery. Sam McLennan, Ross County Football Club. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate Sam McLennan from Back on securing a full-time apprenticeship with Ross County Football Club. Sam is a highly promising young player, and it is encouraging to see his progression from local youth football to a professional pathway. We extend our very best wishes to Sam for continued success in his footballing career. Film G Awards. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate all pupils from the Western Isles who participated in the recent Film G Gaelic short film competition held in Glasgow on the 11th of June. This prestigious event celebrates creativity across a range of categories, including drama, comedy, factual, heritage, creativity, and art. I would like to pay particular tribute to pupils from Castleby Secondary School, Scoil na Loch, and the Nicholson Institute, who achieved success across several categories. And on behalf of the Comhairle, I would also like to congratulate Anna Murray and Donald Marut MacLeod on their induction into the Scottish Traditional Music Hall of Fame. Anna Murray's induction recognises her significant influence on the traditional music scene and her continued advocacy for Gaelic language, culture and music. Don MacLeod's recognition highlights his invaluable contribution through initiatives such as Care for a Céilí and his dedication to sustaining and supporting the traditional music community. Comhairle nan Eilean. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate Comhairle nan Eilean on reaching their first ever cup final after a 3-1 victory over Lochcarron in the Chieftains Cup semi-final. This represents a landmark achievement in the club's history. The final will take place on Saturday, the 1st of August at Buch Park in Rennes, and we extend our very best wishes to the team as they prepare for this significant occasion. Local mods. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate all pupils from across the Western Isles who participated in the local mods over recent weeks. The high standard achieved reflects the commitment and encouragement of teachers, parents and carers, whose efforts are greatly appreciated. Comhairle nan Eilean 2026. On behalf of the Comhairle, I would like to congratulate the Nicholson Institute on winning the Comhairle nan Eilean 2026 for the second consecutive year. Following a closely contested final decided on penalties after extra time. Congratulations are also extended to Seanie McLean of Castleby School, who received the Sar Chuidar na Gaelic Award in recognition of his outstanding use of Gaelic during the competition. I would also like to congratulate Scoil na Loch on finishing as runners-up in the Comhairle nan Eilean 2026. and to Alfie George Gray on receiving the Clwyddau na Gaelic Award for his use of Gaelic throughout the competition. And congratulations to every team who took part in both competitions. It's very encouraging to see so many young people being brought together and forming friendships all through the medium of Gaelic. Thank you. So we'll now go to the agenda, and the first item on the agenda is the minute of the meeting of 1st of April 2026. It's for approval. Do you approve the minute of the meeting? Item 2 on the agenda is declaration of interest, and members are asked to declare any interest they have in any items on the agenda. It would be helpful if members expressed why they are declaring an interest in the item concerned. Any members declaring an interest? Donald McSween, first of all, Councillor Donald McSween.
Yeah, thank you. This is more for transparency because I'm a board member of Urusairoch Housing, one of these dates which has, this is on item 5, one of these dates had signed a memorandum of understanding with the developer. I don't believe that this is this interest requires me to leave the meeting, but I just want to highlight it for the sake of transparency.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor McSween. Councillor Donald Crichton.
Thank you, Convener. I'm declaring interest in items 4 and 5 as a trustee of the Stornoway Trust, as should these planning applications be consented, the trust will benefit indirectly and directly. So I think it's appropriate that I leave the meeting for those items. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crichton. Councillor Duncan McInnes.
Declaring an interest in Spirit the Mara item 5 because of previous project work I've been involved with in the marine environment, and have had discussions with fishing industry representatives on mitigation measures, you know, if a project were to proceed. So I'll be leaving the meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor McInnes. Item number 4 on the agenda. Sorry, anyone else declaring an interest in any matters coming up on the agenda? Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is written questions to the convener and chairman of committees. There's 2 questions from Councillor Gordon Murray. Can read the first one out, please, Gordon. Councillor Murray.
Now, the Comhairle, as a Scottish local authority, is under a statutory duty to appoint a monitoring officer under the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. In the June 2019 report on the appointment of the monitoring officer, the then Chief Executive, Mr. Malcolm Barr, stated, and I quote, "The Act provides that the monitoring officer may not be the head of the local authority's paid service." In the case of the Comhairle, the Chief Executive, can you, on behalf of Mr. Martin Joyce, the current Chief Executive, and Mr. Timothy Langley, the current monitoring officer, confirm whether they agree with Mr. Barr's statement in his report of 26th June 2019?
Thank you very much, Councillor Murray. The question was sent on the Saturday 20th of June and was deemed given to the Chief Executive on Monday the 22nd of June, the next working day. That did not allow for the 3 clear days' notice required by Standing Order 24. I am therefore ruling the question as out of order on that point. I add, though, that even if it had been accepted late, I would have ruled the question as out of order as not being about relevant and competent business, because questions should be about issues, not individual officers, as individual officers should not be the subject of public discussions in the chamber. If you seek information on this subject, you are free to contact the Chief Executive or the monitoring officer. Question 2, Councillor Murray.
Chair, just because the deputy monitoring officer there will be a vacancy coming up. But anyway, Second question, Convener, at its meeting on 26th June 2019, the Comhairle agreed the appointment of Mr Alan Joseph MacDonald as Deputy Monitoring Officer. Section 5(7) of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 states that the duties of the Monitoring Officer shall be performed by him personally or where he is unable to act owing to his absence or illness, personally by such member of his staff as he has for time being nominated as his deputy for the purposes of this section. Can you, on behalf of the Chief Executive and or Monitoring Officer, clarify whether the 2019 appointment process for the Deputy Monitoring Officer was fully in accordance with the requirements of the Act?
The question was sent on Saturday, 20th of June, and was deemed given to the Chief Executive on Monday, the 22nd of June, the next working day. That did not allow for the 3 clear days notice required by Standing Order 24. I am therefore rolling the question as out of order on that point. I add, though, that even if it had been accepted late, I would have ruled the question as out of order, as not being about relevant and competent business, because it relates to a matter that was decided 7 years ago. There is likely to be a report to the September meeting relating to the appointment of a new Deputy Monitoring Officer. Okay, we shall carry on with the agenda and planning. We have the next 2 items are planning issues, and in relation to the planning applications, I would remind members that you need to consider if you have preempted the decision-making process by declaring support or opposition for the application in advance of the meeting or by lobbying other members for a particular outcome before being able to participate in any planning decision. Any motion or amendment in relation to a planning application must be based solely on planning reasons. Should a member move an amendment, the Chair will invite him or her to clearly articulate the amendment and the planning reasons upon which it is based. Therefore, the Chair may at his discretion continue the business of the meeting in accordance with the time-out protocol, dealing with amendments contrary to officer recommendations. A copy of the time-out protocol has been made available to all members via the Planning Applications Board folder on SharePoint. The Planning Officer will present the recommendation of officers. In the event of a member seeking to move an amendment, the Chair may call upon the legal advisor or the planning advisor to provide advice to the board. So item number 4 on the agenda is the proposed temporary workers' residential accommodation, including welfare facilities, parking, associated infrastructure and other ancillary development at the old dormitory site, Marybank, Isle of Lewis. The report is by the Chief Planning Officer. This planning application is classed as a major development under the Town and Country Planning Hierarchy of Development Scotland Regulations 2009, the Hierarchy Regulations. The application cannot be determined under delegation, and in accordance with the scheme of delegation is referred to the Planning Applications Board to make a recommendation to the Comhairle. The Planning Application Board have recommended the application be approved subject to the conditions set out in Appendix 1 to the report. Helen MacDonald will speak to the report, and members will then, after Helen has presented the report, members will have the opportunity to ask any questions. Helen.
Thank you, Chair. As already indicated, it's a planning application for a temporary workers' residential accommodation development. This includes welfare facilities, parking, associated infrastructure and other ancillary development at the old dormitory site in Marybank. I'll just try and take you through the location of the development first and discuss some of the issues addressed in the report. So to give you the site location in a wider context, if you can see in the top left-hand side of the image there, a small yellow star, that is the site. You can see it on the Lochs Road as you start to leave the town of Stornoway to the west, and you can see the main settlement in the middle of the slide there. To take you a wee bit closer in and give you some context of the surroundings, I've endeavoured to outline the boundary of the site in red there. You can see the golf course in the castle grounds just across the road to the south. To the east is the Comhairle Depot, the Scottish Water Office and Depot, and the HHP offices. When we're reviewing various matters considered in the report, it would be worth noting the nearest housing is highlighted in a wee yellow circle at the top of the slide here to the north. Further to the south, you can see the Marybank Industrial Area, as well as housing at Memorial View, Altnabroig and Eilean. Proposal for the residential accommodation is set out in 4 two-storey blocks for a maximum of 200 residents. There's also an associated amenity facilities in the form of a separate gymnasium, a 2-storey canteen and leisure building, and a facilities management office. There's also proposals for an on-site generator, water tank storage, and the development is within the main settlement of Stornoway. The application site extends to approximately 2.8 hectares. It is currently disused but was previously a builder's yard. As noted in the previous slide, surrounding uses are generally industrial, residential and agricultural, with the policies of the Lewis Castle grounds to the southeast of the A859 road from which the development is accessed. The site is not within any designated areas for habitats or for landscape value. As noted previously, it is a major application in the development hierarchy and was subject to the pre-application consultation process. A bit more detail on that. That's a formal pre-application consultation process carried out by the developer and involves 2 public meetings which were advertised and promoted through the local press and online. The process also included online feedback options for those unable to attend, and the comments and responsive changes or additions from that public engagement have been consolidated and included in the pre-application consultation report which accompanies the application. To give you a bit more detail on the development itself, the aerial is still on your right there, and I'll try and talk you through the site plan. The 4 blue blocks that you can see highlighted there are the 2-storey accommodation blocks. The lilac purple block is also 2-storey, that's the leisure and canteen building, and the 2 green buildings are single-storey buildings containing the gym and the facilities management office for the site. You can see the existing access is to be retained and utilised, as well as some of the tracks that were previously through the builder's yard, with the proposed accommodation blocks placed between some of the bunding that's already on site. I think the aerial view is hopefully quite helpful to get an understanding of the overall site from above. You can see the Comhairle Depot in the bottom of the image there, the access to the site, as well as some of the aggregate deposits and bunds, now becoming vegetated bunds that you can see around the site. The nearest housing, as I've previously highlighted, you can see in the top right-hand corner, just a small white gable there. The Marybank Industrial Area to the top left, and housing beyond. The small white building you can see on site is from quite some time ago and has been demolished since this image. The accommodation blocks are prefabricated units. These are the 2-storey units, up to 6.9 metres at the highest point, proposed to be finished in a dark green colour. The application is for a temporary consent for a period of 5 years, with the units being removed at the end of that time. This is an indication of some of the single-storey units with a height of approximately 3.6 metres, again finished in a dark green colour. I'll try and kind of walk you through the site now with some of the key views. So this is the current access, which is proposed to be retained and utilised. This access passes through another portion of the builder's yard that does not form part of the application site. Those 2 posts you can see ahead of you there would take you into the actual area for development of the location of the proposed building units. You can see on site there is some ponding water on the tracks, and it's quite a clayey soil. There are proposals for surface water drainage included in the submission. You can see there's aggregate deposits as well as soil-formed bunds, many of which have some native vegetation. However, there is also invasive vegetation on site in the form of rhododendron and gunnera. Just taking you around to see a bit more of the topographic changes you can see across the site. There are also some well-established tree banks on the western and southern boundaries. just wanted to show you the nearest housing again, so you can consider this when you're making an assessment of the elements of residential amenity discussed in the report. Sorry, it's not very clear, but you can just see the very top of that white gable in the right-hand corner there. There is a bund and established vegetation, including tall trees, separating the site and the housing area. This is slightly off-site, just to the northeast, about 2.5 to 3 metres above the site level, just to allow you to see where the memorial sits above the site, and an indicative view you might get from the site of the memorial, albeit it's not a clear view from within the bunded area. So just to take you slightly above to give you some context. The developer has prepared some visuals. They are not maybe the type you'd be used to with some of the other developments. They're quite perfunctory, but I'll try and explain how they've been designed. This is taken from the bottom of the War Memorial. It's a slightly zoomed in image to show you the location of the site and the surroundings. You can see the Marybank industrial buildings on the top left, Memorial View and other housing in the top right, and the site in the foreground indicated by the red arrow. This is now the zoomed out view where you can see the wider context, and you can see the developer has used a massing tool to create blocks of the buildings. It's not a direct representation of what they look like, but it is a representation of their mass. So you can compare in the next slide the mass of the proposed units. Again, taken from the bottom of the War Memorial. So you can see the units there proposed in green. It's not very distinct. Hopefully the windows can help guide you in terms of the form and scale there. The intention of the visual we requested was to ensure that we could ascertain whether the buildings were breaking the skyline or what they'd be viewed in the context of. And as you can see, they do not protrude above the skyline and views from the War Memorial, and they would be viewed in the context of the existing buildings that you can see when at the memorial. 3 public representations were received and are summarised as follows. I'll give you some time to read through those. All of these matters have been assessed in the relevant policy section or material consideration section in your report. The key planning issues that were raised through these representations, as well as our own policy assessment and consultation responses, were the principle of the development at that location, potential for impact on the historic environment, impacts on the settlement character, residential amenity impacts, and also potential impacts on habitat and wildlife. These are all considered in the report. The application has been accompanied by supporting information in the form of a suite of documents which include a design and access statement, a preliminary ecological appraisal and subsequent environmental report, a heritage appraisal, and a pre-application consultation statement. Mitigation measures and commitments within those documents can be secured by conditions if the application is to be approved. As noted previously, planning applications do require to be determined in accordance with the provisions of the plan unless material planning considerations indicate otherwise. Having assessed the development that is recommended for approval, subject to conditions to manage the impacts and delivery of the proposed temporary accommodation. Just take you back to an overview of the site or the aerial image if that's of any help when considering your questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Helen, for that very detailed presentation. Okay, so I'll open it out to members. Any questions from members in the chamber or online about this development? Councillor Gordon Murray.
I've just got a couple of questions. I just want to confirm what's the motion the council is putting forward and who's putting it forward? Who's going to move and who's proposing and seconding the council motion?
Can I pass that over to yourself, Chief Executive Derek?
That'll be for any member within the chamber to move the recommendations in the report at the conclusion of questions.
Okay.
Do you have another question, Councillor Murray?
I'll wait until I hear who's proposing and seconding.
All right, okay. Any other members have any questions? Councillor Ray McKenzie.
Thanks, Comhairle. If I could ask Helen, was there any discussion at any time proposed to put this development out at Arnish or out of town?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. I can only consider the application that's in front of us. This is the only site that we have an application in for, and it's the only site that we've assessed. It would be for the developer to consider if there was other locations that they were wanting to consider.
Anyone else got any questions? Anyone online? Do any members want to move the recommendations in the report? Councillor Ian Macaulay.
Thanks, Chair. As the chair of the Planning Application Board yesterday, I'm happy to move the recommendation in the report.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Macaulay. Any who's seconding this report? Councillor George Murray.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murray. Any amendments?
Convener, I would like to move. I would like to put the case forward and see if I get a seconder for it. And if I do, I'd like to ask for the timeout protocol to ensure that my reasons comply with the planning regulations and putting amendments forward based on planning reasons. If that's okay with yourself.
Yes, quite happy with that, Councillor Murray.
Okay, so I'll just set out the reasons then.
Can you detail the planning reasons?
What I want to do is do that and then ask for the timeout protocol.
Okay.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, yeah, carry on.
So I move that the council refuses planning permission for the temporary workers' residential accommodation at the old dormitory site at Marybank. I've listened carefully to the officer's report and the discussion at the Planning Applications Board. I believe this specific proposal is in the wrong place and fails to meet acceptable planning standards, and my reasons are as follows. Firstly, the scale and nature of the development. 4 two-storey modular blocks for up to 200 workers, together with generators, canteen and associated activity, would cause unacceptable harm to the residential amenity of neighbouring homes. Residents have legitimate concerns about noise, particularly from the on-site generators, which will be required for some years, light pollution, increased traffic movements and overlooking. This conflicts with our policy on good placemaking and the protection of neighbouring uses. Secondly, the development would have an adverse impact on the setting of the Category B listed Lewis War Memorial. From the memorial itself, the blocks would be clearly visible in the southern outlook. This important commemorative site deserves to be protected, and even a temporary change to its setting is not acceptable. Thirdly, while the site is brownfield, it sits in a sensitive mixed area on the edge of the settlement. Policy expects temporary accommodation of this scale to avoid adverse amenity and environmental impacts. In my view, this proposal does not achieve that. Better local alternatives closer to Arnish have been suggested by objectors, which would reduce the impact on local residents. Finally, this project offers very little direct or lasting benefit to the Marybank community. Instead, residents will bear the brunt of disruption for up to 5 years. So, as I said, these are the reasons, and I would ask for the timeout protocol for assistance if I can get a seconder as well.
Is there anyone seconding Councillor Murray's amendment? Councillor Ray Mackenzie.
I second that.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll have a 10-minute time out, and we will adjourn at about 25 past. Okay. Time out. So there's an amendment to the recommendation in the name of the proposer, Councillor Gordon Murray, and seconded by Councillor Ray Mackenzie. So I'll ask Councillor Murray to read out his amendment. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Convener. That the application be refused on the basis that the proposed development would have an unacceptable impact on neighbour amenity due to its scale, noise from generators, general operation, light pollution, increased traffic and potential for overlooking, contrary to DS1, PD1 and PD6 of the Outer Hebrides Local Development Plan and Policy 14 of the National Planning Framework 4. In addition, the development would have a negative impact on the character and setting of the Lewis War Memorial, contrary to OHLDP policy NBH4 and NPF4 policy 7. The proposal therefore does not comply with the development plan, and there are no overriding material considerations which would justify approval.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Murray. So we will now go to formal debate on the matter, and first the order of the debate shall be the mover of the motion, then the mover of the amendment, seconder of the motion and seconder of the amendment. So I'll ask Councillor Ian Macaulay as the mover of the motion to speak first. Councillor Macaulay.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy with the recommendation as it stands and the conditions on the appendix of the report. Having read and listened to all the evidence and information provided, I'm more than happy that all these conditions have been met and assessed properly. I'm happy with the report. Any concerns in the relevant sections have all been answered to my satisfaction, and I happy again with the report, and the department has given due considerations to all the concerns raised in the amendment, and I would happy to go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Macaulay. So I'll now ask the proposer of the amendment, Councillor Gordon Murray, to speak. Councillor Murray.
So thank you, convener. Members, I've carefully read the office report and the objections from local residents, and I have serious concerns about this application. This is not a small development. It is a large workers' village with 4 two-storey blocks and up to 200 residents right next to existing homes at Marybank. Residents are worried about the noise, especially from generators that will be needed for several years, light pollution at night, extra traffic, and the simple loss of privacy. These are real impacts on people's daily lives in their homes. I'm also concerned about the War Memorial. This is a hugely important place for the whole island. From the memorial, you will clearly see these new buildings in view. That changes the experience of visiting and remembering, and I do not believe that is acceptable, even for a temporary development. I accept that projects need accommodation, but this site is simply in the wrong place. It's too close to residential areas. Sites at Arnish have been mentioned as better alternatives closer to the actual works and will have less impact on people's homes. So they will carry, or we will carry as a ward, the disruption for 5 years. So I believe we should refuse this application. Let's not approve something that causes unnecessary harm to our residents and to one of our most important landmarks. So I move the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gordon Murray. I will now ask the seconder of the motion to speak, Councillor George Murray. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chair. The War Memorial is used by and large 1 day a year, apart from visitors who go there individually. 5 days a year, 5 days over 5 years. Is that enough to reject this? I'm also happy with the report, perfectly happy. I think it's thorough as per usual. And although it's built for 200 residents, we were told yesterday it would have a maximum of 120 to 150 at its height. Am I right there?
Sorry, it could have up to 200, but the working average will be 120 to 150.
Thank you. So I'm happy with this and second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor George Murray. I'll now ask the seconder of the amendment, Councillor Ray Mackenzie, to speak. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thanks, Convener. George and I both live in Stornoway South, which is at the other end of Stornoway from this development. And I wouldn't like it to be inflicted on in the middle of Stornoway South. So I'm not more than happy, as has been said, definitely not more than happy that this will be a suitable development for this area. And if this goes through, I can be pretty certain that it's going to affect the people in Stornoway North at that end of the town in a great way. So not for me, I'm afraid, and I second the amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Ray Mackenzie. I'll now open up. Does any other member want to say anything on the motion or the amendment, or do you all want to go straight to a vote? Okay. There's no one online, Derek, is there? No, okay. Okay, just the summing up before we go to the vote. So it's the amendment first, yeah. So Councillor Gordon Murray first.
Thanks, Convener. I think I've said all what I want to say. I would be questioning whether the use of the War Memorial 5 days in 5 years. I think it's a well-visited site, and that plays an important part in our society, culture, and heritage. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Gordon Murray. And now ask the proposer of the motion, Councillor Ian Macaulay, to sum up. Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you. Nothing really to add. I don't think this has been inflicted on anybody. It is on the Stornoway side of the residence. There is a high tree line between that and where the residence would be. It is far enough to negate any noise. As far as the War Memorial is concerned, we have our own council works department right in front of where this proposal was going to be. And I thought if that was an argument at all, that would be a much worse view, in my opinion, than some temporary buildings. I don't have any concerns on the effect of Stornoway North people, even if some Stornoway South councillors do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Macaulay. So we will now go to the vote. And I will ask, we'll just do our roll call. Is everyone quite happy with that? Okay, I will ask Derek Mackay to take charge of the vote.
Okay, if members could clearly indicate motion or amendment. The motion is in the name of Councillor Ian M. Macaulay, seconded by George Murray, and the amendment is in the name of Councillor Gordon Murray, seconded by Councillor Ray Mackenzie. Nacarum.
Motion.
Leader. Motion. Duncan McInnes, MBE.
Motion.
Sorry, before we go on, Derry, can I ask that the members in the chamber put your light on so that those online will know who's voting? So, okay, carry on, Derry.
Yeah. Kenneth J. McLean.
Motion.
Ian A. McNeil.
Motion.
Ian M. MacLeod.
Motion.
Susan Thompson.
Motion.
Mustafa Hussain.
Motion.
Ushan Robertson.
Motion.
Paul Finnegan.
Motion.
Kenneth M. MacLeod.
Motion.
Robert Mackenzie.
Motion.
Angus Morrison.
Motion.
Councillor Donald McSween.
Amendment.
Councillor Donald Crichton. Sorry, Councillor Crichton's not online. John A. McKeever.
Motion.
Ian M. Macaulay.
Motion.
Malcolm K. MacDonald.
Motion.
Gordon Murray.
Amendment.
Ray Mackenzie.
Stornoway South, amendment.
Angus McCormack.
Motion.
Dr. Francis Murray.
Motion.
And George Murray.
Motion.
$19 for the motion, 3 for the amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek, for that. And again, thank you, Helen, very much for your presentation and for answering the questions. Very much appreciated the work that has gone into this presentation and the work that's gone into it before it reaches this stage. So thanks again. So we'll move on in the agenda and we go to item 5 on the agenda, which is a Marine Director consultation on application for Section 36 consent and marine licenses associated with a Spirit Namara offshore wind farm to the northwest of the Isle of Lewis. The report is in the name of the Chief Executive, and the report seeks to determine the view of the Comhairle in respect of a consultation request received from Scottish ministers on the 16th of March 2026 in respect of an environmental impact assessment EIA report and the applications made to them to construct and operate the Spirit Namara offshore wind farm. The Comhairle is not the determining authority and is asked to respond to the Scottish Government consultation. The Planning Applications Board have recommended that the Comhairle, having regard to the examination of relevant parts of the EIA report and the consultation responses received as detailed in Appendix 8 to this report, raises strong concerns about the adequacy of the EIA report in relation to the assessment of the significant positive and negative environmental effects of the project as a whole, and specifically in relation to the historic environment offshore, airborne noise and socio-economic and recreation impacts, including commercial fisheries. Raises an objection to all 3 applications in relation to the principle of the development of the proposed offshore wind farm at the proposed location and, as a consequence of its location, scale and nature, its likely significant adverse effects on seascape, landscape and virtual amenity, and on the historic environment resources of the planning authority area. These significant adverse effects are such that they are considered to outweigh any positive contribution to renewable energy renewable energy, regeneration and climate change targets. Considers that the significance of effect is so great that the proposed development would fail to meet the requirements of the Electricity Act 1989, which requires the Scottish ministers, in considering proposals for consent, to have regard to the desirability of preserving natural beauty of the countryside and of protecting sites, buildings and objects of architectural, historic or archaeological interest, and to do what can reasonably be done to mitigate any such effects. And also, I would like to remind members that a report on the onshore elements relating to the offshore wind farm are subject to a separate planning application to the COLA. A report on that will come before the COLA at a later date, and members should therefore focus their questions and only raise matters pertaining to the application for the offshore applications that are the subject of this report before the board today. There's no statements, just questions, if any member has any questions. Morag Ferguson will speak to the report, and together with Anne Napier will answer any questions that members may have. Councillor Don McSween, you've got your light on. Sorry, Morag.
Just a further declaration, just for the sake of transparency again, a family member's business has been engaged by the developer to assist with community engagement, but I don't deem this to be a reason for me to recuse myself from the meeting. I just want to share it again for transparency.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor McSween. And Councillor Duncan McInnes.
I'm declaring an interest in this item and I'll be leaving the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor McInnes. And before, at the beginning of the meeting, when I asked for declarations of interest, Councillor Don Crichton indicated he's left the meeting. Okay, thank you very much. So, Morag, can you bring us this presentation, please?
Okay, thank you, Convener. As the Convener said, this is the report is regarding a consultation by Scottish ministers on Marine Directorate on applications that have been made to them for Section 36 consent under the Electricity Act and for marine licences associated with the Spirit Namara offshore wind farm, which is proposed to be located on off the northwest coast of the Isle of Lewis. The Spirit Namara offshore site, also known as N4, which is the subject of the applications to which the report relates today, was granted a lease by Crown Estate Scotland back in early 2022, along with 16 other sites. These projects are at various stages of development. The Spirit Namara developer and their team have been working over the last 4 years on the preparation of the EIA reports that are necessary to support the applications for the various consents that are required. During this time, they've also conducted a large number of pre-application engagement events on the island, and their documentation includes reports that sets out the detail of those engagement events. There is a multiple consenting regime for offshore wind, and these are the three principal consents. The two that are the subject of the report before members today are the Section 36 consent from the Electricity Act, which is required for the building and operation of an electricity generating station, and there are two marine licence applications, one for the generating station itself and one for the transmission infrastructure. While Scottish ministers do have powers to grant deemed planning permission, they do not always elect to do so, and as a result, the application for the onshore development related to this project has come in to the Comhairle Planning Authority, and a report on that matter will come before the Comhairle at a later date. This slide is just an infographic that kind of illustrates the relationship between these different consenting regimes. So on the left-hand side at the bottom there, you'll see that the Marine Scotland Act consents come up to mean high water springs, as does the Electricity Act. And then the Town and Country Planning Act, for which planning permission is required, is for any development which goes down to the limit of mean low water springs. There is an overlap in the consenting regimes in the intertidal area. So the Comhairle is just one of a number of consultees on the EIA and applications submitted by the developer. Scottish ministers will also have consulted Nature Scot, SEPA, Historic Environment Scotland, and a range of other relevant authorities and stakeholders. At the time of writing the report, the Comhairle is not apprised of the responses of any of other consultation bodies, nor of any representations that have been made to the Marine Directorate by the public. Scottish ministers will take the response of the Comhairle into account alongside all other relevant matters, including the representations by others when taking their decision. Just so that members are aware of the scope of the offshore EIA report, it covers a broad scope of topics, many of which relate to matters which are not within the expertise of the Comhairle as the planning authority. These, for example, physical and coastal processes, the fish ecology, marine mammals, shipping and navigation, these will be examined and commented on by other consultees and will also be examined by officers from Marine Directorate, who will ultimately assess the applications for consent on behalf of Scottish ministers. Also included in the EIA are a series of mitigation plans that are identified in green at the bottom of the slide there. This slide sets out the focus of the Comhairle Planning Authority assessment and how that forms the basis of the recommendation before the Comhairle today. So officers have reviewed only the relevant parts of the offshore EIA report, and that's been done within the relevant policy frameworks that are set out in detail in Appendix 2 to the report. We have considered the principal development of the proposed wind farm in the location. The seascape, landscape and visual effects, which has a comprehensive chapter within the EIA, cultural heritage effects, airborne noise, and also the socio-economic aspects, impacts on the local economy, including tourism and commercial fisheries. The slide just shows the extent of the offshore array or the offshore site. That's the subject of this report. If you were to project the northern and southern boundaries of the site ashore, then the site would extend roughly along the coast from Carloway to Upper Barvas. The closest point of the site to the shore is 5 kilometres. The closest turbine to any part of the shore is about 6 kilometres. The effects of are assessed in the wider context and not just on the Carloway to Upper Barvas area. On the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see that the extent of the onshore infrastructure, and that's subject to a planning application and is subject to a future report, and is just illustrated here to allow members to understand the totality of the project. This slide just sets out the extent of the proposal. So just at the bottom of the slide, just to explain, EIA environmental impact assessment requires that the developer assess the realistic worst case scenario for the project. So for each of the impacts, they have to consider what are the extremes. So the largest footprint, the tallest structure, the worst case interaction, in order to predict the likely significant effects. So in this particular case, the application is for the construction of a fixed bottom offshore wind farm. So it will be on foundation structures that are fixed into the seabed. There's potential expected capacity of 900 megawatts of power. The developer has assessed 2 design options because the ultimate preferred design option, they're not at the stage of determining that, so they've assessed 2 design options: 44 turbines of a maximum blade tip height of 338 meters above sea level. It's that option which has been assessed as the worst case for the purpose of generating the visualizations, which I'll share at the end of this presentation. The other option that's been looked at is 60 turbines of a lesser height of 293 meters above mean sea level. It's also the case that the preferred option for a substation hasn't been determined, and therefore 2 options have been considered for a substation. The offshore scenario 1 is for there to be an offshore substation, and scenario 2 is that there would be a landfall substation. For all options, the ultimate connection would be into the grid near Stornoway, where the SSEN HVDC is proposed. The slide is just an infographic that shows the infrastructure where the developer to go for scenario 1. So in this scenario, the wind turbine generators would be at sea, and an offshore substation platform would be at sea. The export cables would come ashore. They would enter a horizontal directional drilling exit pit. So at that point, they would be drilled into the rock, and the cables would come ashore below ground level and enter a transition joint bay ashore. There would be no substation at the landfall point. The cables would just go from the transition joint bay across the moor to the grid substation, which is proposed near just on the west side of the A857, and then cross over the road to the SSEN converter station. Scenario 2 is if there is the preferred option is to go for a landfall substation. And in this scenario, the wind turbine generators, the array would be at sea. There would be no offshore landfall substation. Again, cables would come ashore, drilled below ground using horizontal directional drilling, and the cables would enter a substation which is proposed at landfall just north of the cemetery on the Machair at Barbas. Then the cables would come across the moor to the grid substation west of the Lochside Arena, and ultimately would cross under the 857 to connect into the Lewis hub. So this is just a schematic that sets out just the structures that are proposed for each wind turbine generator. So on the right hand side of the slide, you see that each turbine would be set up on a multi-leg jacket foundation. So these are lattice steel structures on steel cylindrical piles that would be driven into the seabed. As the foundation pieces in the marine environment, the steel is treated and it's painted typically yellow. And in the top section of the foundation piece and the transition piece, that's the dark platform, would sit above the waterline, and therefore the yellow part of the foundation piece would be visible. And again, that'll be illustrated in more detail when we come to look at the visualizations. And then on the left hand side, you can see just the part of the turbine, part of the structure that would be visible enlarged. So there is the turbine tower itself. There is an air gap between the top of the transition piece and the bottom point of the blades. Typical 3-turbine blade with the hub sitting on top of the tower. So the next slides are to set out our it's actually skipped a few slides. Okay, so this slide sets out the scope of the works and their duration. So I'll allow members just to read over the slide. So I think critically just that the works would take place over a 5-year period. They would be, offshore works would be carried out simultaneously with the onshore works, and these would be, the works would primarily at sea be carried out between April and October to optimise daylight hours and optimal weather conditions. Percussive piling, which we'll come into in a bit more detail, would be for 5 hours per day, restricted to 5 hours a day. This slide just details the two layouts that are proposed. So on the left, the 60 turbine option, which would be the 293 metre high turbines, and the 44 turbines on the right. Turbines along the perimeter in both would be fitted with navigation lights. These are the turbines that are identified in red on the slide, and the yellow indicates the location of the offshore substation, where that the preferred scenario for the substation. The next slides take you briefly through our consideration of matters that inform the recommendation. These are all set out in detail in the report. First of all, the principle of development. The planning statement, the developer's planning statement and EIA contend that the principle of development of the site is established on account of it being identified in the Scottish Government's sectoral marine plan. We do not share that view. Further, we do not take the view that the climate change targets for the ScotWind project establish an overriding need for this particular project. Our assessment is that the principle of development at this location is, despite its inclusion in the sectoral marine plan, is not acceptable due to the various impacts which I'll discuss further and again are set out in your report. We absolutely recognise the importance of maximising renewable energy generation, but consider that this should not be at any cost. A major part of the EIA report is focused on the seascape, landscape and visual effects. And there is consensus between the developer's own assessment and our independent examination of the EIA that the proposed wind farm, if built in this location, would result in significant effects on landscape and visual amenity, including on the South Lewis, Harris and North Uist National Scenic Area. There would be major widespread adverse effects across the Northwest Lewis coast, also Wigan Bernary, and the impacts would include significant effects on National Scenic Area, loss of wildness, remoteness and the current natural horizons, and it would be a dominant visual presence in coastal views. Our assessment is that it's in conflict with the landscape policies of National Planning Framework 4, the National Marine Plan and the Outer Hebrides Local Development Plan. It's also our view that the significant effect is so great on this count that it fails to meet the requirements of the Electricity Act 1989 to have regard to the desirability of preserving the natural beauty of the countryside and to do what can reasonably be done to mitigate such effects. The landscape and visual impact assessment includes an assessment of effects from a series of representative viewpoints. It's a comprehensive assessment. There are 39 viewpoints in total. These are located along the coast. In this first slide, you can see there are from 1 to 21. It lists the viewpoints that have been assessed. The purple area shows areas where in theory between 36 and 44 of the hubs of the turbines would be visible. The second slide, there's a bit of an overlap in terms of the viewpoints here, but you can see like the latter viewpoints going from 21, 19 up to 39 are listed here, and these latter ones on the right from number 29 to 39 are all within the National Scenic Area. The National Scenic Area boundary is identified by the dark purple delineation on the bottom left-hand side of the slide. The offshore project boundary is identified in red at the top of the slide there, and you can see like 5 of the turbines there. There is a quadrant just at the very bottom of the application site where no turbines are proposed, and that's in order to increase the distance between any turbine and the boundary of the National Scenic Area. Nevertheless, the assessment is that there would be significant effects on on the special qualities of the National Scenic Area. The next topic that was examined by the Comhairle is the cultural heritage chapter of the EIA, and the slide sets out our findings. On this, the cultural heritage assessment covered marine archaeology, and that assessment was found to be fair. But in terms of the effects on heritage assets ashore, our examination concludes that the assessment is deficient, and in particular, it does not demonstrate an understanding of the archaeology of the Isle of Lewis and the relationship of many of the heritage sites on the northwest coast with the maritime routes of travel and settlements, including those early Christian sites. Again, our assessment is that there would be serious harm to historic environment assets, and that the development would not be policy compliant in this regard. And again, that the significance effect is so great that the proposal fails to meet the requirement of the Electricity Act, which also requires a development to have regard to the desirability of protecting sites, buildings and objects of architectural, historic or archaeological interest, and to do what can reasonably be done to mitigate any such effects. On account of the nature and scale of the turbines at the location proposed, it is not possible to mitigate their effects on either the landscape, seascape, visual amenity, or indeed in cultural heritage findings. They are the scale they are at the proposed distance, and therefore, further mitigation is unlikely to change those significant effects. Just to give a bit of context to that, this slide shows the heritage assets on land, and each one that is labelled SM is a scheduled monument. A scheduled monument is designated because it's of national importance. There are a whole host of them along the northwest coast of Lewis. In addition to that, the ones that are shown by a red dot, these are listed buildings. It is the case that when you're assessing the effects on a scheduled monument, that views both from the monument and towards the monument fall to be assessed. The zone of theoretical visibility for the heritage assets is on a different basis to the landscape one, and in this one, any land or seascape that is identified in purple is where 37 to 44 turbine tips will be theoretically visible. The assessment concluded that only two of these sites were identified as having significant effects, and that conclusion is considered to be surprising given the assessment of landscape and visual amenity concluded widespread effects from representative viewpoints, many of which duplicate these viewpoints for the heritage assets. There's an extensive section on noise within the EIA report, both noise that would affect marine mammals, but also offshore airborne noise, and this is from particularly from piling and drilling. So the section of the EIA report was examined, given that we have our own environmental health department who are consider noise impacts. And again, our assessment has identified concerns over the methodology and clarity of the assessment in this regard, and feel that there's been a lack of robust assessment of worst case scenarios, uncertainty over the construction noise impacts, and as a consequence the human health impacts that would arise. It's our assessment that it's our view that the assessment does not demonstrate policy compliance, and that while mitigation measures are proposed, that there's a lack of confidence that these are sufficiently defined and capable of being secured and effectively implemented in order to protect human health. The slide just illustrates the extent of the area that would be subject to percussive piling. So that's piles that would be driven by kind of hammer action. So they would be in the area that's identified in pink on the slide. The area that's grey to the southwest would be as an area where percussive piling would be excluded on account of potential impacts on migratory fish, particularly Atlantic salmon migrating into Loch Roag, where leading in turn into Loch Langavat SAC, which is a European protected site for Atlantic salmon. The area in green, just towards the shore, is where the landfall exit pit area, so that's where the cables would enter the pit for horizontal directional drilling to commence into the land mass. Socioeconomic impact were also examined, and on this there is understandably potential benefits. However, again, it was considered that the methodology being used was inconsistent in relation to tourism, that some of the data used for the baseline assessment was outdated, and that the tourism impacts potentially underestimated. Again, the mitigation not sufficiently specific, and questions over whether it could be adequately secured, and therefore that the local benefits that are proposed may not actually materialise. Commercial fisheries were also examined, and again concerns were raised over the detail of the assessment, and again concerns that some of the mitigation proposals were weak and would not provide adequate mitigation for the harms, and concerns again regarding policy conflict. In terms of EIA methodology as a whole, there's some concern that the project, that the approach fails to assess the project as a whole in terms of cumulative impacts of the offshore and onshore, and in that regard would not meet EIA regulatory requirements. And then just in summary, that our conclusion was that the significant adverse effects on landscape, seascape and visual and cultural heritage cannot be mitigated further, and that these outweigh the positive benefits of renewable energy and their contribution to climate change targets. A recommendation is that the Comhairle should object to the application for the Section 36 consent and for the marine licence applications, that the Comhairle should raise strong concerns about the adequacy of the EIA report that underpins these applications, and state that it is our view that the development fails to meet the policy tests, the policy framework having been set out in Appendix 2 to your report. Further, that it's our assessment that a development fails to meet the requirements of the Electricity Act, in particular emphasising the significant harm that would arise to the natural beauty of the Isle of Lewis and to the historic environment assets. There is some further slides which I'll share, which just sets out the visualisations. These are visualisations that have been provided by the developer as part of their own assessment of the seascape, landscape and visual effects. And if you just bear with me, I'll just share those. Just look and see if am I still connected. Have I think I've lost the connection. I think I might have to join again. I think I've dropped out of it. I had joined. It's better if I do it from this because so what I'll do is I'll leave and I'll join again. Okay. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so there are 12 visualizations in total. These have are taken from the submitted offshore EIA. They are all have all been scaled to 100% of magnification, so they are they are larger than what you'll see on the screen. Each one provides the detail of the how the landscape architects have prepared them. They're all to professional standard, and each one provides the details of the nearest turbine from the viewpoint selected. So this first viewpoint is from Melpost Bor, so it's the furthest north one which I have on the presentation. And from this viewpoint, on the seascape on the horizon, the full extent of the wind farm would be visible. This viewpoint is at 9.6 kilometres from the turbine array. So that's like roughly 6 miles. And in addition to the turbines, the offshore substation is shown here. That viewpoint has also been used as a viewpoint for the nighttime visualizations. So while this one wasn't taken when it was full darkness, it does provide a useful viewpoint because the turbines are silhouetted. Turbines and the offshore array are silhouetted against the evening sky. The next viewpoint is at Ballandrushal. So this is Clachandrushal. This is a scheduled monument. This one is taken at 8.5 kilometers from the nearest turbine, so it's about 5.3 miles. This is one where significant effects were not concluded on the stone, but from this view, in views from the stone, it's clear that, again, like a large number of the turbines would be visible, and in particular along the seascape. This next one is from Arnold Village. So Arnold Village has a crofting settlement pattern, very old village, lots of stone walls, lots of historic settlement in the area. And as you come down into the village, so it's taken at a viewpoint along the village road, it is at 8.5 kilometers from the nearest turbine. And again, here you would see the full panorama, the full extent of the wind turbine array. So as you become, the villages that become closer to the wind farm, then the detail becomes more obvious. So in these you can see like the foundation in yellow, and the transition pieces would be visible. Can we move this? Okay. So this next one is from the Arnold Black House. So the Arnold Black House is a listed building. It's a building in care of Historic Scotland. It's closer down towards the shore. And this is as you come into the curtilage or the grounds, and the Black House has got the like old stone wall as you enter. It's obviously like a highly visited, apart from its heritage merit, it's also like a visitor destination. And as you enter the garden of the Black House, you're going again to see all of the turbines. If the offshore substation is the preferred one, then it would sit here. And then as you come round to the Black House itself, so as you would approach the Black House, or as you would exit the Black House, then the wind farm would be in full view. And again, despite its listed status, again, there was no, the heritage impact assessment did not conclude significant effects for that heritage asset, and we would disagree with that assessment. This next one is taken down at Braggart Beach, up behind you, just up on higher ground, above the beach and the slipway, is the Braggart Cemetery. It's a very old cemetery, and within that cemetery there is a scheduled monument, Comhairle nan Eilean, and that is one of the assets where the heritage impact assessment concluded that there were significant effects. If you were up at Comhairle nan Eilean within the graveyard, then you would be at a higher elevation than you are down at the shore, and therefore more of the turbines would be visible. But this was the viewpoint that was selected in agreement with ourselves at the time. So again, like, the turbines will be visible across the whole of the bay, and some of the tips and hubs will be also visible across the headland. Like I say, if you were at the graveyard at a higher elevation, you would see more of the hubs and the blades of more of the array. This next one is one of the closest points to the from the shore to the wind turbines. So this is on the shortest core path. It's 6.8 kilometres, so that's about 4.2 miles. And from this viewpoint, again, you're going to see not just the turbine themselves, but also the foundation pieces will be like more obvious. And again, from that, from Shawbust in particular, from within the core path in the village, a number of points in the village, the full extent of the array will be visible. So this next one is also taken within on the west side circular road, if you like, just outside Eilean campsite and the entrance to the Shawbust school. So from this viewpoint again, the turbines again would be visible. There's a raised beach in Shawbust, so there's like this beach down below, the kind of green raised beach area. It's again popular, and there's a kind of inland loch. So like most of the west side of Lewis, it is popular, not just for local walking and local recreation, but also as a visitor destination. Then this next one is taken from Dún Carloway, Carloway Broch, again a visitor destination and also like a very important heritage asset, well preserved example. And from the Broch itself, like when you're looking out towards kind of Bernard, the hill is first of all in the way, but then as you come across, the turbines will be visible across most of the horizon and across over above on top of the villages. And again, it's our view that in views from that monument, a scheduled monument, that there would be significant effects on that heritage asset. The next couple of visualizations are from within the National Scenic Area. So this is the nighttime photo montage, which is taken at Reef Beach. And in this one, because it's taken in darker conditions and with daylight, it's easier to see that the lights on the hubs, the navigation lights on the hubs, would be more visible, but there would also be smaller lights on the towers because of their height. So there'd be interim lights. So there's a daytime option of this. So this is the same visual taken during the day. This is a site within the National Scenic Area. It's also a very popular beach for visitors, a lovely beach, and also obviously like very important to tourism and residents in the Uig area. I should have said, so at the distance, so there, Reef Beach is at 16.6 kilometres, so you're about 10 miles from the nearest turbine at that viewpoint. So the next viewpoint is Gallen Head, again over in Uig, and again there's a nighttime montage for this, and again obviously this was taken at in the full hours of darkness, and again you can see the navigation lights on the hubs and the interim lights that would be required on select number of turbines on the towers. So Point again has daytime. So again, like that would be a full seascape view. You're quite on Gallen Head. You're obviously like on an elevated point in the landscape, but looking out to sea, the full, you'd be looking end on to the end of the wind farm there. And again, it would be visible in its entirety. And then another one of the kind of beaches, which is again like a valued resource from both tourism and local residents, the Dalmore Beach. It's a small beach that is framed by sort of cliffs, by rocky cliffs, and the whole of that view would again be filled with the turbines. The distance is 7.3 kilometres, so you're just about 4.5 miles from that. And here the kind of height of the turbines would compete with the height of the cliffs and fill the entire view along Dalmore Beach. And then the final visualisation I have has actually been taken from the onshore EIA, but it's useful in terms of just an appreciation of when you're approaching the village of Barvas from the Barvas Moon Road. So as you just to start drop down from the high point towards Lord Barvas, again you would see the turbines, the area of turbines there. So you've got the houses in Barvas and out towards Loch Street here. So that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
As ever, thank you very much, Morag, for your very comprehensive presentation. So, do any members in the chamber or online have any questions? And I want to remind you again, it's questions, not statements. If you are not asking questions, I will stop you. So, questions, please. Councillor Francis Murray.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask in the context of the legal advice on the precedent of Ray Shaw versus the Scottish ministers. I was very interested to read that. It went against the idea of splitting aspects of an application. Does that only apply to one application rather than across applications?
Morag.
Okay, so the Ray Shaw Farms decision was related to an onshore wind farm and its connection to the grid. There's obviously like different views emerging on that court case. In this case, the developer has prepared both an offshore and an onshore EIA. Whether the case would hold good for an offshore to an onshore wind connection remains to be tested through the courts, but we would have preferred to see the offshore assessment have a cumulative assessment with the onshore aspects, in particular in relation to the Barvas onshore substation, which will be seen in view together with the turbines. But I mean, 2 EIAs have been prepared. It's not a single compilation, which would have been a preferred means of of considering the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Morag. Are you quite happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Ray McKenzie.
Thanks, Convener. I'm sorry you're not going to let us make a few more statements and it's only questions. I can tear up what I said, more or less, what I was going to say. I think Morag's done an amazing job with this report, and to my mind, it's completely destroyed this application. Thank you for the detailed report and these contributions. and particularly about the conclusions. So I don't see why we should accept this development, and particularly with our level of fuel poverty.
Councillor Mackenzie, question
That's a
relevant
question.
to
That's a question.
fuel poverty. It's not relevant to what we're discussing just now. So can you keep it to a question, please?
Well, it's very difficult not to take in other aspects of this. And as far as I'm concerned, this application is completely unsatisfactory.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Mackenzie. Any other questions from anyone? Anyone online? If not, can we?
Yeah, sorry,
Councillor Dominic Swin.
Thanks. I was just trying to find the page again in Morag's presentation, and thank you, Morag. That was an excellent presentation. It's a tiny little detail. I'm just looking for the presentation again here.
Excuse me, Councillor McSween. I'm not sure you're allowed to ask a question because you declare an interest. All right, connection.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. It's not. It would. Yeah. Thank you. It was just for transparency. Yeah. There was a page that had all the viewpoints. I think it was page landscape viewpoints 1 to 21, and just is that from the developer, all this information on the place names, or is that the Comhairle's own page there?
All right.
No, these are all extracted from the developer's own submission. The assessment of the landscape visual seascape impacts were very comprehensive, and we were satisfied that our own examination found that it was a very professional and thorough assessment. The visualizations are all taken from the visualizations pack that forms part of the EIA.
Yeah, thank you. And it was just. I looked at the one closest to me, and I can see where it says 2 Cross. That's in Swainbost, not in Cross. So I was just clarifying that just a tiny little detail, but it appears to me to be incorrect.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McSween. Anyone else got any questions? If not, do members agree? Obviously, it has to be the recommendation and the report has to be proposed and seconded, but do members agree the recommendation of paragraph 3.1 of the report, 3.1 of the report, once we have a proposal and seconder? Proposed by Councillor Macaulay. Yes. And
seconded.
Proposed by and seconded by Councillor Ray Mackenzie. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you again, Morag, for your very detailed report on this subject, and very much appreciated by all the work that has gone into it. I know it's taken up a lot of the department's time over the past few months. So again, thank you very much from everyone. We'll now go to item number 6, committee decision reports, and these are for approval of the recommendations in the decision reports. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for the following decision reports, please? Education, Sport and Children's Services Committee, which was held on Tuesday, the 16th of June, 2026. Proposed by...
Thanks, Chair. I move the committee decision report of Education, Sport and Children's Services Committee on the 16th of June, 2026.
Proposed by Councillor Paul Finnegan, seconded by...
I second the decision.
Seconded by Councillor Mustafa Hussain. Thank you very much. Councillor Ray Mackenzie.
Item 14, we were told at the meeting that we would be getting information by the end of this month, which is 4 days away. So I would have thought there might have been something in there, but maybe the director might have something to say.
Okay, I'll ask John McLeod, the head of education. Are we on schedule for members getting this information by the end of the month, John?
Thank you, Convener. We continue to work on getting to a resolution. We hope to still be able to do that towards the end of the month. But I do need to make the Chamber aware that the developer has asked for a further week to complete testing. So we expect that it may go into the first week of July. But the commitment to provide information to members as soon as a decision is intimated remains, Convener.
Okay, thank you very much, Ronnie. Quite happy with that, Councillor McKenzie. Okay, excellent. So the next committee decision report is a Sustainable Development Committee meeting of the 16th of June 2026. Can I have a proposal, a seconder, please?
I move the committee decision report of the Sustainable Development Committee of 16th June 2026.
Proposed by Councillor Duncan McInnes and seconded by Councillor Angus Morrison. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the minute of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee meeting that was held on Wednesday, the 17th of June 2026. And can I have a proposal and a seconder, please?
Thank you, Convener. I am moving the recommendations of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee of Wednesday, 17th June 2026.
Proposed by Councillor Ushan Robertson, the Chair. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second it, Convener.
Okay, thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Susan Thompson, Vice Chair. Next committee decision report is a Policy and Resources Committee, which was held on Wednesday, the 17th of June 2026, and proposed minutes proposed by.
I move the committee decision report of the Policy and Resources Committee of Wednesday, 17th June 2026.
Okay, thank you very much. Proposed by the leader and seconded by the Deputy Leader, Councillor Duncan McInnes. Thank you very much. The next committee decision report is the Audit and Scrutiny Committee meeting that was held on Thursday, the 18th of June 2026. Proposed by.
Thank you, Convener. I move the committee decision report of the Audit and Scrutiny Committee held on the 18th of June 2026.
Moved by the Chairman, Councillor Angus Morrison, seconded by.
I'll second that.
The Vice Chair, Councillor Malcolm MacDonald. The next, the last committee decision report is the Policy and Resources Committee meeting that was held, a short meeting I may add, on the 24th of June. That was Tuesday this week. And the minutes, the recommendations in the decision reports are moved by.
I move the committee decision report of the Policy and Resources Committee of the 24th of June 2026.
Moved by the leader and seconded by the Deputy Leader and the Vice Chair of the committee. So that brings our meeting to a close. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your input, and I hope you all have a good summer and that you all take a break, that the weather's nice and you'll get a bit of time for relaxing. And the next scheduled meeting of the Comhairle will be on Wednesday, the 30th of September 2026. And I also hope that you enjoy the rest of the World Cup.
Thank you, Chair.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.